I grew up as a British gymnast and then had a very lucky opportunity to work on a film at the age of 13, which was called Lost in Space. A few years later, I got the opportunity to be the first ever broomstick test on the Harry Potter franchise. You're looking at the world's first Quidditch player. I did 8 years on those magical movies, doubling Daniel Radcliffe, and unfortunately a workplace accident, an on-set stunt rehearsal, rendered me a quadriplegic. So I was doing a wire stunt. It went tragically wrong and I hit the wall at a very weird angle at quite high velocity, and suffered a spinal dislocation at the C6, C7 vertebrae, instantly paralysed, and then life was changed forever. I'm out there now. I'm in wheels and proud instead of in wheels and cowering.
Welcome to the Backup and Thriving Accessible Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Sophie Elwes, and in this series I'll be interviewing a range of guests who are all affected by spinal cord injury. They'll be sharing their travel stories, experiences, and some fabulous advice. Our hope is that listeners will realise that travelling after spinal cord injury is not only possible, but that it can be life-changing too. David, welcome to the Backup Podcast. Great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you, mate. Yeah, I'm in a warmer climate than the UK right now, so very grateful for that. I'm currently in Spain.
Oh, amazing, lovely. How very pertinent that this podcast is all about travel. So I look forward to getting onto that a little bit. So I think it probably makes sense if you're happy to kind of introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit of background about yourself before you had your injury would be good.
Right, okay, yeah. So I grew up as a British gymnast and then had a very lucky opportunity to work on a film at the age of 13, which was called Lost in Space, as a teenage stunt double. I was doubling the young boy in the film and spent a summer, most informative summer of my life, running around Shepperton film studios, diving out the way of pyrotechnics and hanging around with movie stars. And I went back to school going, I'm going to be a stuntman for a living. And then a few years later, I got the opportunity to be the first ever broomstick test on the Harry Potter franchise. You're looking at the world's first Quidditch player. Obviously, swap my broomstick for the wheelchair now. I'm a bit more grounded, but I did 8 years on those magical movies, doubling Daniel Radcliffe and some of the other cast members on those films, and then unfortunately a workplace accident, an on-set stunt rehearsal, rendered me a quadriplegic. So I was doing a wire stunt. It went tragically wrong and I hit the wall at a very weird angle at quite high velocity, and suffered a spinal dislocation at the C6, C7 vertebrae, instantly paralysed, and then life was changed forever. And then from then on, for the last 16 years, I've been living with my disability, and in more recent years, I told my story through the medium of a documentary, a HBO documentary that's still on Sky right now in the UK, and then I also wrote my book that was released last year. So I'm out there now. I'm in wheels and proud instead of in wheels and cowering. So
Got you. I checked out your documentary and I thought it was brilliant. It was super compelling, and I loved all of it, but I loved hearing about your journey into like being a stuntman, and it was really interesting kind of watching that story. What did it kind of mean to you? It seemed like an incredible opportunity. And I mean, Lost in Space was a huge movie. I remember that one. Tell me more about kind of that experience, would you?
Well, it was always something I wanted to do. You know, very few people in this world are lucky enough to grow up to do what they love and what they want. They wanted to be when they was a kid, and that was it. So my gymnastics coach was a stuntman when I was younger, so I always looked up to him. I had some great men in my life. He was one of them. And it was my dream, and I got to live my dream for 10 years pretty much, working on different films and traveling the world and, performing mad, silly stunts that you look back on, you go, oh, wow, I got away with that one.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's the best life a young man could ever have. And I always say, if, spinal cord injury was repairable, I would have gone back to work. But alas, I just do a different way of telling stories now. Like I used to tell stories of my physicality, and now I tell my story, and hopefully it gives a bit of insight and teaches people, like, gratitude for what they have, and understanding that, life can change in an instant, and it's how you adapt to those changes is what makes you, who you are as a person. And it's not been an easy journey, never is, you know what I mean? But I think when you go through hard times, it makes you find out what you're made of, and really test and tells you who you are. And yeah, I seem to be doing all right with it so far. It's not been it's not been perfect. I've had, I've lost a decade, and where I've made mistakes, and, was trying to navigate the trauma and all of those things. But I hear now on the other side of that journey is a middle-aged man with a lot less hair, but a lot more knowledge and understanding. So yeah, getting there.
I love this. I love this so much. I thought it was really interesting what you said, particularly around, I can't remember exactly what the words that you used were, but it was around, when you've had an experience like that, you find out kind of who you really are. And that really spoke to me a lot.
Yeah. And also, it was very much like when you go through a trauma, it's not just you that goes through it, it's your loved ones. And I also always say that, there's more pain seeing your pain in your loved one's eyes. So, asking those to accept me for how I am now and just be grateful that I'm alive was very much like pivotal in my early stages of my recovery, for myself to accept it, and for my family. And we all put on a brave face for it for a bit, and there was peaks and troughs and good times and bad times all along, and plenty of mistakes along the way. But on the other side of it, I look back at the last 16 years, and I always say, breaking my neck made me a better human being.
That's amazing. I mean, let's go back a little bit. A lot of people listening will be experienced, with adapting of some sort, and some will be less experienced. Some will be new into this club that no one wants to join, as they say, and thinking, like, how the hell do I adapt? And likewise with family members, as you rightly say, I think that can be sometimes the hardest of all, for them to kind of learn how to adapt. I think because they're not necessarily faced with it personally, and it's complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, I was fortunate. Like, I've always been a creative person, and that plays to hand with, navigating the world with a disability, because disability is creativity. It forces you to be creative, because that's the only way you can navigate living in a society that doesn't, it's not set up for you, whether that is travel, like the subject we're going to touch on soon, or being creative in how you get a social life, or how you make yourself dinner, or get independence in any way. Like, and every little inch of independence you get back is a win, when you have so much stripped away, like, and taken away. Now, as someone that was fully tetra with two working arms, now quad with only one but with no hand function, I'm constantly having to adapt. But my life's lessons of breaking things down into its smaller parts, has allowed me to achieve many great things, like, whilst also going through quite difficult things.
Tell me more about that strategy, David.
So you can get overwhelmed, can't you? And it is overwhelming in hospital, and you get institutionalized with the safety net of the nursing staff always being there for you, and like needing whatever you need, like whether it's medically wise or just psychologically wise. You're very much like in this bubble, and then you go out in the world, and it's like you suffer the trauma all again. And by not overthinking too many things and breaking it down to its smaller part. For example, when I was doing a gymnastics routine or a stunt, we would rehearse it and build it up. So a stunt it would be like a quarter speed, a half speed, a full speed, whether that was a fight routine or getting run over by a car. Now, the gymnastics is the same. You have to break down each individual muscle movement and then put them all together again to achieve the move that you want. Navigating the world with a disability, I do exactly the same. So if I'm going somewhere new, I've never been there before, it's a great way to use Google Earth to try and find out, what is the entrance like, what's the pavements like, how am I going to get through there by just going on Street View, ringing up the venue, making sure they've got access, making sure they've got, wheelchair accessible toilets, even things like where's the nearest changing space. God forbid, navigating ladder and bowel function is something we all have to deal with regards to spinal cord injury, and just having a safety net of, like, all right, if the worst was to happen, how am I going to get out of it? Right, I've got a spare pair of clothes in the car, and the closest changing space is here. So yeah, all of those things, you can put them together to achieve going out. You know what I mean? Like, same as like a vehicle. Like, I've learned a great trick, great hack. As long as you've got a fold up, bog standard, really tiny wheelchair in the car, a really good way of seeing the world as a quadriplegic is hiring a convertible, because you can put the roof down and hoist into the front seat. And I have done that at most places I go to. I did like rent leased one for a couple of years. I've only just let the lease go and taken my friend Jay, who's a C4 quad with no use of his arms, around Europe, and he uses his power chair. He put his power chair in his van behind, and we just had a little fold up wheelchair in the back of the car if police stop you and say, is there a wheelchair in the car to use? So it's about being creative and working your way around things. If you want an experience in life, you want to do something in life, you got to earn it. And by earning it with a disability, it's about trying your best to put as much forward thinking into every exchange, so that when you're having the experience, you can be present in it. And what I mean by present, you could be not worrying about, well, if I have a bowel accident, where's it going to go? Or, how do I fix it? Or where am I going to go to the toilet? Or how am I going to get in the door? Or are they going to be able to accommodate for a bowl plate when I eat? Or, am I going to be able to control my temperature? All of those things, if you just think about it a lot beforehand, you can overcome the anxiety of having to navigate it if it does go wrong on the second. So travel's very much like that, going through airports. Like, it's devastatingly difficult for us, like wheelchairs and power chairs and battery information, and then going into a country with a different language, and then trying to convey all that information to someone in Dubai and then someone in Thailand, or wherever you're going to. And what I do, I mean, Chat GPT is a great gift for our community. Not only can it write you good doctor's notes, but translate it in any language that you want, but it can live translate if you're going for any sort of medical emergency as well. And then it what I do is I travel through an airport with two chairs, because medical equipment is free to travel on the flights. So what I do is this quickie power chair that I've got, that I take the headrest off, take the foot plates off, put them in a suitcase, take the cushions off, put that in a suitcase, and then with my medical supplies, and then that suitcase, because it's medical supplies, is free, and then the wheelchair, because it's medical equipment, is free, same as the hoist and whatever. And then I send this through on the plane, and then I travel in my Trek Kinetic. But say you're a quadriplegic, then travel in a manual wheelchair. And then if your wheelchair gets broken in transit, you've got to get out of jail.
Mm.
But also on this power chair, I print off the battery information and laminate it and stick it on the headrest. I print off that any airline and airport is liable for the damages of the wheelchair, should they damage it during transit. And then I convert it to every single language that I'm going to go through in every country. And that is on a laminated bit of paper, which is tied to the headrest, like headrest clamp on the chair. And as the chair goes through, they can all read it, they all know what they're doing, and then they all know that they're going to be held liable if it goes wrong. Now, I'd advise anybody to not only travel with the actual manual of your wheelchair, but also just take the stupid out of the equation and put all that information on a laminated bit of paper on your wheelchair, and then it's a goer.
Brilliant.
Like I'm in Spain right now, so I mean, I speak from an unbelievable point of privilege, like with regards to my disabilities. I have the funds to do these holidays, to do these trips. But I got my power wheelchair in Spain because I put my wheelchair adaptive vehicle on a car transporter, put the chair in it, and then travelled in my Trek Kinetic, and then picked the car up at Alicante Airport. And then I've got my bigger chair, I've got supplies in the van, and then I've got a chair that I've travelled in, which is the Trek Kinetic, which can go from manual to electric easily.
Okay.
Now, I can afford 2 chairs to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Some people don't have that luxury. But that's why with wheelchair services, before you get out of hospital, you need a manual wheelchair, you need an electric wheelchair. And when they say, well, why do you need 2 wheelchairs? It's like, well, why do you need 2 legs? You know what I mean? Like, why do you need 2 pairs of trainers? Like, it's because one might break down, the laces might break. It's exactly the same thing. It's like, can you be willing to risk your mobility on one device? And I do not take that risk. But again, I'm very fortunate enough to be able to do that.
For sure. Sounds like you've got it completely down, the process and the routines that you take in order to make traveling as like risk averse as possible, right?
Not only that, I DM Emirates before I fly and say, this is my flight number. And I'm got quite a large social media presence. I'm like, you will be held accountable to all of my thousands of followers if you mess my flight up. And you can now use whatever tools you've got available to make it as accommodating as physically possible. So the backup trust could set up the liable letters or conversions letters for all the airlines. You should have like trusted airlines to work with that are really good, and airline reviews for disabled travellers is something I'd recommend that we as a community do.
Definitely. There's a lot out there, but there's a lot we can do, I think, in terms of, collectively as a community around travel. I think a lot of people these days, particularly post-pandemic, are scared. People with disabilities are really scared, and a lot of people are not traveling. They're not getting on flights and stuff like that.
Another hack, really important. You have carry-on luggage, right? Put 2 full weeks of your medication pill trays in your carry-on luggage. So if they lose your suitcase, make sure in your carry-on luggage, if you've got catheter and bowel routine for 4 days, catheter routine for 4 days, and 2 full weeks of your medication. Because pharmacies in any country can get you the stuff, but they can't get you meds. So always carry with like pre-built med trays and have them done, and seal them up, write the medication and attach the prescription to it, so that when you're going through countries, they've got different medication rules. That some countries are like, if you're traveling with certain painkillers and this, that, and the other. If you've got your legal prescription in the UK, then you should be fine if they flag it up. But always, take your meds enough to get you out of jail in case they lose your suitcase. Take that in your hand luggage. and the manuals for your wheelchairs, the battery information, and yeah, just your necessities. Just think, if they lose my case, what can I manage with, and just make sure that's in your in your head.
Yeah, that's such good advice for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, a lot of people, I think these days are really scared of traveling, people with disabilities. Besides the sort of the practicalities, which you've been kind enough to share, what would you say to, someone listening who's maybe newly injured or maybe not newly injured, but, maybe has a higher level of injury and is refusing or afraid to travel at the moment? What would you say to encourage them?
I'd say being as self-sufficient as possible, not relying on others, is a really good way of doing it. So get in your car, go in the Eurotunnel. You know what I mean? If you've got a wheelchair adaptive vehicle, just book the Eurotunnel. It's 24 minutes. You're in another country. Like I live in the southeast of England. I can go to Bruges for lunch for the day. You know what I mean? Like, and get back again in the evening. So driving is a great way to see the world, especially like if your wheelchair goes in the front seat, or you can get in the front seat of a vehicle. You don't just fly over the world. You actually see it. You see the change of the foliage, and also you got all your stuff in the car with you. You know what I mean? It's just so much easier. Like, I always drive down to Spain in spring and fly in the autumn. But yeah, by driving, you put your music on, you see the world, you've got all your stuff, you've got your safety net. You can stop at a service station, you can take your time to do it. And you can book hotels all the way along. And there are European chains of hotels that are really good. Funny enough, like, some countries are better than others, but generally, as long as you're really specific with your room requests. For example, you get to a room and you need to hoist into bed. The bed is not on legs and you can't get a hoist underneath. Go to the hotel lobby, get some books, put the bed on books. You know what I mean? Go outside, get some bricks. Whatever you got to do to make it work. Sometimes another great hack, put a slidey sheet on the bottom of the bed and then use your hoist to hoist over the corner. So stick the legs over the far corner of the bed. Get your bum on the bed and then slide up the bed. You know what I mean? So even if you can't access the side, you access it from the bottom by kicking your hoist leg really wide and get on that way.
Yeah.
It's all doable. You just got to be adaptable, and you've got to be willing to roll with the punches and not catastrophize every barrier that you get to, and just say, oh, this is part of it. The best parts of your holiday are not, the stories that you tell at dinner parties afterwards. Can I swear on this? It's probably not a good. All right, I won't swear. I won't swear. Right, but the best stories from your holidays are not like, oh, we had such a lovely time, the beach was beautiful. Your friends want to hear about the screw ups. Your friends want to hear about how you were up a mountain and had a bow accident, and there's only one disabled toilet, and you forget to lock it, and a family opens the door whilst you're getting lifted up with crap all over your backside. Those are the stories that make people laugh. Those are the stories you recount at dinner tables. And those are the stories that, all right, going through it at the time is not easy, but afterwards, when you've completed the inevitable screw ups that you're having to deal with, you look back and you go, well, I've got something to say about that. I've got a story to tell. So you got to embrace that and be able to laugh at yourself with it.
What doesn't kill you make you stronger, right?
Absolutely. And if you can break your back and break your neck and still be here, then that's all the conviction you ever need.
Big time. Resilience are us, for sure. It sounds so that's sort of great advice for someone who's maybe newly injured and sort of early stages, but also want to put out to people, you can fly. It is possible.
Yeah,
You've done loads of traveling. Been in
yeah, I've
Thailand
traveled
and
around
all
the
sorts.
world.
Tell me about sort of some of that. Have you got like a favorite trip or an adventure from your time traveling?
I've been everywhere. I've been really lucky. I think the big one was I shipped a hand controlled car that I bought to Perth, and then I flew to Singapore for a week, and then I flew from Singapore to Perth with my one of my best mates who also helped me navigate my care requirements. And then we drove from Perth across the Nullarbor, which is the longest, straightest road in the world, across like the bottom of Australia. It's just, I mean, it's a dead drive. Most Australians don't do it. But for 5 days, we drove across the Nullarbor to Adelaide. And then we went to Adelaide to Melbourne, Melbourne to Wagga Wagga, Wagga Wagga to Sydney, Sydney to Brisbane. Brisbane, we went on to Fraser Island, which is only off-road vehicles can get there, and drove through forests and jungle, and then went back to Sydney again. Then went to New Zealand, done the North Island, the South Island, the North Island again. Then went New Zealand to San Francisco, had a beer with my mate Chris Columbus. Went San Francisco to LA, and then went LA back to home.
Wow! Oh my
Yeah,
God!
pretty cool thing to do. That was a cool one. I do European
Can I
road
just
trips
ask
every year.
about that one? While you were in Australia, were you flying through all those places?
No, I
In
was driving
between,
my
you
car.
were driving all the time. But I mean, there was a
Driving
lot.
my car.
Yeah, were you?
I was on hand controls. It was when I had the function to be able to drive. And I was on hand controls and I was driving my car.
Wow.
Yeah, I literally just get lifted into the front seat, drove it for 6 hours, and then my mate swapped to me and he drove for 6 hours, and that's how we journeyed across Australia. It was epic. Proper
Super
epic.
cool.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
cool. Love that.
Yeah. So, and also I had all my stuff in the car with me. You know what I mean? I was in a manual wheelchair, and then I also had my Trek Kinetic electric wheelchair. I had a roof box on the top.
Oh, okay.
I had camping gear in the car in case we broke down in the middle of nowhere. I just planned for every eventuality, and it went smooth as hell.
Wow.
Brilliant trip.
That's amazing. You sound. I recently went on a big trip as well, and you sound a lot more well prepared than me. I feel like I definitely winged it. I was traveling for like 4 months all around the world, kind of solo, which was pretty cool. It was pretty epic. But a lot of it was just like hoping and definitely preparation before. And obviously, my care needs are less, so I can get away with more probably, I think. But yeah, you sound like an absolute boss in terms of preparation.
Yeah, it's just breaking it down to all its small parts, and like now me and my partner, she's C4 quadriplegic as well. So there's not just me and my care team, but it's my partner and her care team. And we go to Thailand for a month in January. We're in her place in Spain right now. We've done road trips together. We've explored cities together. We find wheelchair accessible hotels with 2 accessible rooms. If one of them's only got a wet room, then we just swap on the shower days. So we get on. We just put the work in, and we just accept that. On one road trip last year, 2 of the cars we were in broke down. And then it was like, right, okay, cancel that hotel. I'll book another hotel. Get all that care team there with a cab. We'll get there with a cab. We get out and then go back and pick the rest of them. It was, it was just pressure. But I come from a life where, pressure was my everyday, and I'm very good at it. I actually kind of welcome it sometimes. You know what I mean? Some people don't have that luxury of the bandwidth mentally to be able to deal with all of that. And my life was that and is that. So, yeah, I will remind everyone, just don't be afraid of what you're capable of. You know what I mean? There's always something in the tank. You know what I mean? By hook or by crook, you will do it. Whether that's travel or whether that's transfer or get out of bed day when you're in deep depression. You know what I mean? By hook or by crook, you can do it. You just gotta breathe now and again. Just breathe and break it down. You know what I mean? Even breathing myself, I hold my breath underwater on a scuba bottle in my physio sessions at home, and that is my happy place. I mean, apart from in the arms of my partner, that is my happy place. You know, like I can just be there and take everything away, even breath. And I mean, I can hold my breath for over 4 minutes, which is not bad considering I only breathe with my diaphragm. It's all about what's up there, and I like that test. Yeah. So yeah,
Love
and
that.
then when you put yourself under that pressure, when you take the fundamentals of breathing away, I like when I'm there, I'm mindful that some of my friends, like Matt Hampson, are ventilated. You know what I mean? Ventilated quadriplegics. I'd be grateful that you can do that. You know, and funny enough, I'm going to try and set a Guinness World Record for quadriplegic with the longest breath hold because there's not been one
Ha!
set. So I was like, oh,
Nice.
I reckon I've already got it. So yeah,
Very
we'll
cool.
see.
Very cool.
If it encourages someone else in our community to go through it, which encourages them to look after their, lung health, then I've done a good thing, right?
Big time. Big time. You're talking my language, David. I love this stuff. I love what you were saying about, I think you were saying essentially don't underestimate yourself. We
Yeah, so
surprise
much
ourselves
more.
with what we can do, when you're in the situation, right?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, don't fall into the box that society tries to put you in or tell you in. We are not victims, that despite, governments and, corporations and individuals trying to frame us in that way. Don't be a victim. Spend your life being a victim. You see the world that way. Never have your eyes open to the beauty of the world. Every day you get an opportunity to see a gift, but you have to have your eyes open enough to do that. You can't do that if you're sitting there feeling sorry for yourself. Put your big boy pants on. Get on with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just how it
Love
is.
it. Love it. Love it. I have a couple more questions before we finish. First
Yeah,
one, if you could go back and tell your newly injured self one thing, what would it be?
that however hard you're finding it now, don't worry because with time, you're going to remember that you're still the same person. It's not going to change you. Not going to change you for the worst. It's going to only change you for the better. You know what I mean? You're actually going to have a more human experience navigating the difficulty than you are avoiding it and, staying in bed and feeling sorry for yourself. You're going to have a better understanding and empathy and uh, relationship with yourself because you're forced to. When you're stuck sitting, run, not able to exercise away your problems or run them away or, just have the freedom of independence to do something without the support of society in general and individuals, whether that's your loved ones, caregivers, or family partners, whatever it is. When you're forced to sit with your problems, you are forced to learn to love yourself a bit more. Yeah, so I'd say that. I'd say, don't worry, it's not going to change you. It's actually going to make you better.
That's beautiful. Oh, beautiful. And
Yeah.
I hear you. I completely agree with you. It's taken time to get there, though. I think we've been injured
Yeah,
a similar
time.
amount of time. And yeah,
Yeah,
I'm only recently
time.
realizing that, I think.
Yeah, time. Time is like, it's not my healer when it comes to my journey with my change in neurology. Obviously, I've lost an arm. Whether I retain independent breathing, speech, and swallow, no doctors can tell me that. But if that forces me to be present, I'm here today talking to you, independently breathing in, even though it's grey, warmer climates. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Totally.
gratitude is the best attitude.
Totally. Love it. What's your connection? Have you got any connection with backup?
My connection with backup is Chris Yates. Chris Yates, who is one of backup's employees, is one of my best friends. He was pivotal in me, him and one of his best mates, Aaron, me having to navigate being disabled. As soon as I come out of hospital, he's a local lad, reached out between him and Aaron, come over. and we proverbially shut the, I won't say the last word, but they helped me navigate my journey early days, and I'm very, very grateful that, and it's one of my best friends. I love him dearly. So yeah, and I was recently at the backup do over at Fortnum and Mason, and that's why we're doing this podcast today. Saying that, yeah, I mean, I don't like assign myself to any individual spinal injury charity. I just lend myself and my, what my lesson and my story to collectively raising the whole community up as best I can. So yeah, that's my connection to
Yeah,
backup is Chris,
it's beautiful.
and like I had a few of the peer visits when I was early in hospital. And I know Lindsay that goes around Stanmore. And Will Pike has done a bit of backup who I was in hospital with as well. So you sort of these charities, you guys never like you're in and around the spinal units early days, and you show that you tell people that they're not alone. And God knows we know that. I mean, all human beings need to feel that in general anyway, but especially if you're navigating a massive trauma and a giant life change. So yeah, very grateful to know that there are great charities like Backup out there.
Totally. All about the community. It's a huge thing, isn't it? Whatever that looks like for different people, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle sometimes when I meet people that sort of accept being the victim. And early days, if you're early in your injury, I get it. I understand it. But if you're 10 years in the teeth and you're still feeling sorry for yourself, it's like, do you want to spend your whole life like that? Really? Are you going to always be glass half empty? But then that's probably who they were before their injury. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a product of all the people that loved me to being, and I was well loved.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Final question. You've given so much advice already. It's just been really, really beautiful, and I'm sure will be massively, massively helpful for those listening. What's your advice for those listening on living well with a spinal cord injury?
First, find your coping strategies. Find what makes you feel good about yourself, but doesn't pigeonhole you by separating you from society or life in general. So if you like to garden, garden. You know what I mean? If you like to read books, read books. If you like to write, write. If you like to create, find a new way of creating. I can't write with hold a pen, but I wrote my own book. You know what I mean? Like I can't paint a picture, but I've made a documentary. Like whatever it is that you can regain that sense of self with, then do it. Fight for every inch of independence you can as early as you can. Whether that is installing smart plugs to turn a lamp on, or picking the right TV so you can use a smartphone to operate it. Anything you don't have to ask someone for is any little gain of independence is an absolute win. So yeah, lean into the ones that elevate you and be willing to separate yourself from the ones that want to wallow in your suffering. Because there are plenty of people that like to do that. They come over for tragedy porn. Oh, you're having such as half time, aren't you? It's like, get over it. You know what I mean? I'm not here for you to interact with me so you leave the door and make yourself feel better about yourself. You know what I mean? If you want to do that, watch a true crime documentary or a sad film. Watch our Daniel Blake. You know what I mean? Watch any film by Ken Loach. Lean into just understanding that it's going to be hard and accepting that and embracing it. But also realize that it's never the destination. It's always the journey. It's always the journey. It's always, one rotation of the wheel in front after the other. You know what I mean? For able-bodied people, it's one foot in front of the other. For us, it's different. It's
One
always
spin
the
after
journey.
the other or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. And adapt and change is a constant. You know, control is an illusion for all of us. You know what I mean? You know, we feel like, oh, I'm not in control. It's an illusion. An asteroid could come down and wipe us all out in a minute. The other day, one passed by Antarctica by 300 kilometers, and no one knew until it passed us. Yeah, literally no one saw it coming. Like 300 kilometers is not like it's a small distance when it look at space. That could have landed on the south of the planet, wiped all of us out. So yeah, be here now. Get over it. Yeah.
Amen to that. That was beautiful. Oh,
Cool.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has been wicked. I've loved this conversation.
No worries, Sophie. Thank you for your time, and I hope that whoever's listening to this is be willing to forgive yourself for finding it hard, but also be, you know, if you are in a better place than you were, then it's your responsibility to give back in any way you can to those that are coming behind you.